Śrī Madhvacharya ki jai. Śrī Vijaya ki jai. Go. Yes, I thought today, because it's appearance day of Madhvacharya and Vijaya, that I'd speak on that.
Do you want to read the verse?
No, because it's probably better someone does it fully tomorrow, and I'll do this fully today, rather than, because they'll cut into this, I won't do it justice.
Okay.
Do you want me to do the verse?
Usually for the Acharya, we just do the verse and then we read.
And they'll do we do the verse, and then they'll still speak on that tomorrow.
No, they'll speak on the next verse.
Really? They shouldn't do that. Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay, alright.
Yeah?
Whatever you feel.
Okay, so I'm just going to do this.
Okay.
It's an important verse discussing the Bhagavatam verse, especially about the role of women in ISKCON. And it shouldn't be skipped over. Who's giving class tomorrow? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 That's what I'm saying. So, first we'll discuss a little bit about Vijaya. Vijaya. That's who knows a little bit about that? What do we celebrate on Vijaya? What's the general consensus? I'll ask.
It's the victory over Ravana is a day that is the
Yeah, we celebrate the victory over Ravana. And what do we celebrate on Diwali?
Diwali is the return of the Lord Ramachandra returning and arriving in Ayodhya, and the citizens of Ayodhya, they welcoming.
Yeah, so it's interesting because from reading the Ramayana, on Diwali, that's when Rama actually killed Ravana on Diwali. And after killing Ravana, there was 7 days. It's some time elapsed before he actually returned to Ayodhya. So he didn't return to Ayodhya on the Madhvacharya. There was the punching, which was after that. But it's correct that we are celebrating those things, but they didn't happen on these days. So on the Madhvacharya, although there's this celebration because they light the lamps, it indicates the victory of light over darkness, good over evil, in one sense, and the celebration for the return of Ram. So it is correct that that's what they're celebrating, the return of Ram, and yet he didn't come back until after that, according to the Ramayana. On that day he actually killed Ravana. So what happened on this day, which is before that, this is the on this day read some quotes. And they actually had a victory celebration, but they hadn't killed, Ram hadn't been killed. In essence, the summary is that on this day, Hanuman returned, and with news that he had found where Sita was. And at that time, the sun was in a particular, it was in the meridian, it was a particular place called Vijaya. And because of all the auspicious omens, Lord Ram understood, we will have victory. We will find Sita and we will kill him. So, because of all the auspicious omens, he understood, we will have success. So before the battle, he already knew he'd win, and therefore they actually had a celebration. So it is correct, what they're celebrating, but it didn't happen on the days they're celebrating. So it is called the Vijaya, so the victory over Ravana today, and yet Ravana is still alive. But I'll read some different quotes from what I've got from here's a letter also from Prabhupada. He says, this was to Bujun in 1967. He said, in that letter he says, Ramchandra's victory celebration is observed in the last day of Durga Puja. So now we're in the Navratri, and Durga Puja is on the Saptami, but the celebrations go for about 3 days, all finishing up on the Dasami, and this is therefore the last day of Durga Puja. And therefore, Ramchandra's victory. So Prabhupada's also saying the same thing. His victory over Ravana is celebrated today. But the interesting thing is that they celebrate before they kill him, which was another 5 days in the Madhvacharya to run. And I went through the Ramayana. I have a very old copy. There's a lot of the copies they take out some of the details, like what the tithis were, and some of in the older versions, unedited, they still tell you what the tithi is and what the waxing moon is, so you can actually tell the actual proper time frame. And, just to give you an idea of some of the quotes from the Ramayana which describe that. So of course, we're in the Gora sometimes this celebration, this Vijaya is done, they burn and beat an effigy of Ravana. We should do that one day. Build a big effigy of Ravana and beat it and shoot a flaming arrow and sit around the bonfire and tell stories from the Ramayana. That would be nice. Has anyone ever seen that? You've seen that? Yeah. I'd like to see it. That big effigy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just summarise from what I've read. It appears that when Hanuman told Ram that he had found Sita, Ravana and his followers observed the festival, foreseeing that victory was imminent since Sita was alive and that her capture's whereabouts was known. So in the Ramayana, the Yudhakanda, 2 2, the march forward, Ram said, I assure you, I will destroy Lanka. As it happens, the sun has reached the zenith, and the time of the day is called Vijaya. It is sure to forebode victory to us if we begin our march now. Today is the start of Uttara Falguni, and tomorrow is Hasti. Let us begin our journey. I can see good omens, and I am certain that I will kill Ravana and rescue Sita. My right eye is throbbing, and it means success in our endeavour. So then they travelled by day and into the night. The Vana army proceeded with speed. Gradually they reached the shores of the sea. Ram said, let the army call a halt here. So they spent the day there. The sun began to set. And at that stage, Ravana was engaged in his war council. The next day, Vibhishan joined Ram's side. Ram meditated at the sea for 3 nights. Then after another 5 days, a bridge was built. And 10 days after the war council, Kumbhakarna was woken to engage. So actually, this is the. So we're coming up to full moon. What happened in 5 days? Are we coming up to full moon? What day is Diwali? That's on. That's about. So we'll be coming up to the full moon, which means that then there'll be another fortnight until the Amavasya. Yeah. So that's the not another 5 days, but actually between now and Diwali is when Ravana was killed on the Amavasya. So we're coming up to the full moon. In fact, we've got a calendar, isn't it? So we must be, because Diwali is a long way off. It couldn't be 5 days off. So this is Ram Vijaya in the Guru Paksha of the Padmanabha Mass, because we haven't started Kartika yet, which is the next month. It starts on the full moon, right?
What, Kartika?
Kartika.
Kartika was October
17, yeah. So we're coming up to the full moon because each month of Chaturmas begins on the full moon or after the full moon. Yeah? So we're still in the month of the Padmanabha, and we're in the Guru Paksha coming up to. So this is the Vijaya, and then when we get to a fortnight after Kartika begins, we get to the Amavasya, which is when Diwali, when Ravana was actually killed. So that means it was something like about 20 days, you calculate that, between this festival and killing Ravana. So, as it describes there, they some days travelling, 3 days meditating at the sea, 5 days building a bridge was built, and 10 days after Ravana's war council was begun, Kumbhakarna was woken to engage in battle. So, so you see the time frame there. Then, in the Ramayana Yuddha Kanda 34, Ravana's minister, Parshva, said to Ravana, today is the 14th day after the full moon, so that's the day before Diwali. He says to Ravana, success will be yours if you set out to fight with Ravana tomorrow, which is the day of the new moon. So that shows that he was killed on the Amavasya. So anyway, there's a lot of different quotes there from the Ramayana just to show. So this is Ram Vijaya. It is celebrating the killing of Ravana, although it was a festival before So that's interesting how, you know, it was, especially amongst those who were associating with sadhus and studying the scriptures, you know, even people in common would have some indication of future events, good and bad, just by different omens, and, you know, when certain things happen, you know, it's a good indication. Just like, you know, if it rains and there's also sunshine. So if you're beginning something, it rains and there's sunshine as well, and you're discussing beginning something, then you get a good, yes, I think that will be successful, let's do that, we're going to do that, yeah. So so many different moments, the good and bad. If a dog comes up and smells your feet, it means you're going to go somewhere, you're going to, say you may, you know, take a bit of a long car ride, all sorts of different things. So they understood. That part has always fascinated me. That's why I like to, you know, research a lot of these books, because just like when, you know, Madhvacharya now, generally during the Chaturmasya people don't marry. But quite often devotees ask me, I want to get married at such and such a time because my Guru Maharaj will be in Mayapur or this or that or the other, choose me a good day. So I choose me a good day, usually during the Navratri. And then all the pundits in India say, oh, you know, you can't marry now, it's Chaturmasya, and I'll marry. And then but in the 10th canto of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Prabhupada describes that, you know, it is an auspicious time because what are the auspicious omens at this time? Who can tell me? What are the auspicious omens in India now during the Navratri? What makes it auspicious?
Kartik is auspicious. Kartik.
No, just like, you know, we say, sunshine, it's raining, something is happening.
Cooler weather. Weather is cool.
Raining weather.
The weather is getting a cool bit cooler. October,
Yeah,
it is getting a bit cooler.
you like it cool?
Rainy season.
Don't they get the new grains?
Rainy season.
And that's why they have the festival of Durga, and they offer, that's what Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavatam, all the new grains are coming up. And I don't know, I'm just, you know, that's what I was reading from Shastra, but as far as Prabhupada, and they offer that in the temples of Durga and the temples of Vishnu, and then they, you know, they celebrate it, because Durga, of course, is the goddess of the material energy. And all the, you know, the earth is in India is producing, so they've got food for the next year. You know, this is a good omen. Bad omen, drought, everything wiped out, nothing, you know, like that. So it's auspicious, and people go to the various temples, including Durga Devi, and you know, they celebrate the auspiciousness of what is happening, and therefore at this time, because it is auspicious, Prabhupada mentions that they have in the Bhagavatam they have all sorts of celebrations. Some you know, recommended in the scriptures, some a little bit more traditional, but you know, people have all sorts of celebrations. So you know, people ask me for a date, and you know, they really want to marry that certain stage, the spiritual master going to be. I usually choose it at the time, and it's, you know, one of the auspicious days during the Navratri, which according to the Bhagavatam, you know, you can do festivals, celebrations, all sorts of things like that. And then when the pundits in India, you know, debate that, and then I mention the quote in the Bhagavatam, all the debate stops. Because then they have to challenge Prabhupada. So it's not up to me. So you want to fight with someone, you challenge Prabhupada's books, and all the debate stops. But So, so that's a little bit about the Vijaya, Srila. Very auspicious. And it's interesting that we should, that there's a connection, a little connection there between Ramachandra's pastimes and Madhvacharya. Does anyone know that connection?
The connection of Hanuman?
Hanuman, that's right, yeah. There's a quote here from the Gangeswar. This is from the Gangeswar Ashramedikanda. So a little bit summarised. King Vajranava, that's the great grandson of Krishna, inquired, how will people in that degraded age, Kali Yuga, achieve salvation? Kakamuni said, Vamana, Brahma, Sesha, and Sanat Kumara will establish Dharma in that age by the command of Lord Vishnu. So, because I'm reading this because there a couple of considerations. One is that Hanuman was connected with Vayu, and Madhvacharya is also connected with Vayu. But just before we go into that, there's another statement here also, another connection. That Vamana, Brahmana, Sesha and Sanat Kumara will establish Dharma in that age by the command of Lord Vishnu, accepting the forms of Brahmanas. From the expansion of Vamana, Vishnu Swami would be born. From the expansion of Sesha, Ramanuja would be born. From the expansion of Sanat Kumara, Nimbaka would be born. And from the expansion of Brahma, Madhvacharya would be born. So in this case, Brahma. These will then establish their sampradayas. In Kali Yuga, the merit achieved in Satya Yuga by performing meditation, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifice, and in Dwapara Yuga by performing worship in the temple can be achieved in Kali Yuga by chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna. So it appears that these personalities, the devotees of the Lord, are sometimes accompanied or empowered by the Lord or others to perform certain services. Just like Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Kaur is considered to be, some consider that Lord Brahma took the role of Haridas Kaur, and some say Prahlad Maharaj. So, and you know, in the Radha Krishna Kanadesa sometimes it describes it, you know, such and such a devotee, that these two different personalities appeared as this person. You know, so sometimes there's a couple of people accompanying that personality. Another example was Ramananda Roya, I think it was. Some say that he is Vishaka, and then there's also he is also considered to be Arjuna So, different personalities sometimes accompany and empower. And of course, those different personalities, such as Ramananda Raya, they have a particular service that they perform, which sometimes, a personality like Arjuna, you could see him empowering him and him taking up that mood in his service. And then in an internal mood, he may be accepting the mood of Vishaka, who's the company. So sometimes, according to the different services and moods, that these different personalities are empowering them in a particular facet of their life, and other personalities empowering them in another different facet of their life. Yes, so Vayu is a connection between Madhvacharya and Hanuman. So I'll read a little bit about Madhvacharya, his appearance day today. I'm just going to... Here's something from the Śrīmad Hare. This is Bhaktivedanta. Overwhelmed in ecstatic love, Raghava Pandit began to narrate the characteristics of Lord Chaitanya to Srinivas. After accepting Ishvara Puri as his guru, Lord Chaitanya always floated in his own tears, and Ishvara Puri became mad with ecstasy after accepting the deliverer of the universe, Lord Vishvambara, as his disciple. You may say that Lord Chaitanya is the guru of the entire universe, yet he accepted a guru. This is certainly puzzling. Therefore I say that to instruct the people in general, the Lord established the principles of religion by his own example. Who can understand this transcendental pastime of the Lord? He himself thus glorified the Madhvacharya. By accepting mantra from a bona fide sampradaya, one becomes successful. If one receives mantra from an unauthorized source, that will certainly be fruitless. In Kali Yuga, there are 4 authorized sampradayas mentioned as Sri Brahma, Rudra, and Sanat Kumara. This is all elaborately described in the Puranas. These 4 sampradayas are the authorities on the science of bhakti. I will now describe briefly how the sampradayas were named. Sri Krishna Chaitanya is like a desire tree, and in the form of Narayan, he is the original guru of the 4 sampradayas. Shri is the beloved of Narayan. She is his disciple as well. Her wonderful activities are elaborately described in all the Shastras. Shri is another name of Lakshmi. Her disciplic succession has unlimited branches and sub-branches. Who can write them all? In her sampradaya, Ramanuja became the Acharya, and from his time the sampradaya was called the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Previously he was known as Lakshmanacharya. Then later everyone called him Ramanujacharya. He is the author of the Ramanuja Bhashya. The branches and sub-branches of his disciplic succession filled the whole world. O Srinivas, please hear now about the Madhva Sampradaya. The merciful Lord Brahma was the disciple of Lord Narayan. His disciples and grand disciples spread throughout the world. In his sampradaya, Sri Madhva became a disciple. His first work was to write a commentary on the Brahma Sutras, and for this reason he was known as Madhvacharya, and the Sampradaya became known as the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. So actually because he wrote a commentary initially on the Brahma Sutras, he became known as Madhvacharya. And his Sampradaya was known as the Madhva Sampradaya. Lord Narayan also has the merciful Rudra as his disciple. There is no end to his disciples and grand-disciples. Vishnu Swami became a disciple in this line, and he became mad in ecstatic devotion and love along with his disciples. Vishnu Swami was very influential and a learned scholar in all the scriptures. From him, the disciplic succession was known as the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. Here now Srinivas about the Sanaka Sampradaya. From Narayan appeared the Hamsa Avatar. His disciples were the 4 Kumaras headed by Sunak Kumara. Their disciples and grand-disciples cannot be counted. In this line, Nimbaditya became a disciple. From him it is known as the Nimbaditya Sampradaya, known also as Nimbaka Sampradaya. The influence of Nimbaka was very wonderful. His disciples and grand-disciples to the world. The Sri, Brahma, Rudra and Sanak Sampradayas spread their influence by dividing into other Sampradayas. In the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Sri Ramanandacharya was highly respected. He had many disciples and grand-disciples. Therefore, his branch of the disciplic succession is known as the Ramananda Sampradaya. Similarly, Sri Vallabhacharya appeared in the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. He wrote a commentary named Anubhashya, which is highly respected. His disciplic succession is known as the Vallabhi Sampradaya. What can I say about the other Sampradayas and their activities? So, some of them, they're still existing, aren't they? Some of those. And they're, they have they're a branch of the original Adi Gurus. So actually, in Kali Yuga there's 4 authorized Sampradayas and a whole lot of unauthorized Sampradayas. Sometimes doing preaching, someone explains that they've got their guru, that they invite us to come and speak, but they have their own guru. I like to always ask, what Sampradaya they're in, and quite often the response I get is, what? What does that mean? You see, that there's no understanding that there even are 4 Sampradayas, what to speak of the fact that if you receive a mantra that's not in the Sampradaya, it is basically useless. It's not authorized. Just like you can even buy a postage stamp, but until it's authorized by the post office, unless they put their stamp on it, yes, it's a stamp. You can put it in the letterbox. It won't go anyway. It's got to be authorized. It's the same. It's a letter, stamp, put it in the post box. It still won't get there. You've done what everyone else. It looks exactly the same with everyone else. You get the mantra. We haven't authorized you to chant this. There's something you need to do. It's fruitless. And Prabhupada gives this nice summary of the overall contribution of these acharyas. He says, all these devotees are spreading this Krishna consciousness movement, it's the same movement, very widely in giving protection to innocent people who are being so much embarrassed by pseudo-avatars, swamis, yogis and others. So the protecting. In this regard, there's about mantra being ineffective. There's a nice conversation with Srila Prabhupada, John Lennon, Yoko Ono, and George Harrison. This is from, I think it's in maybe in one of the books as well, but this is from the conversation, the actual book, the book of conversations. So, Prabhupada says, Evam parampara praptam. In this way, by disciplic succession, the knowledge is coming down. But in the course of time, the succession was broken. Therefore, Krishna says, I am speaking it to you again. So a mantra should be received from the disciplic succession. The Vedic injunction is, Sampradaya vinna ye mantraste nishpalamataha. If your mantra does not come through disciplic succession, it will not be effective. Mantraste nishpala. Nishpala means that it will not produce the desired result. So the mantra must be received through the proper channel or it will not act. A mantra cannot be manufactured, it must come from the original, supreme, absolute, coming down through the channel of disciplic succession. It has to be received in that way, and only then will it act. And you notice that the common connection that Narahari, speaking with Srinivas, the common connection between all the Sampradayas, they're all coming from Lord Narayan. His, direct disciples in the form of Brahma, directly spoken by Lord Narayan. Srila, the four Kumaras spoken to by Narayan, the form of the Hamsa Avatar, and Rudra. So, according to our Krishna consciousness philosophy, the mantra is coming down through four channels of disciplic succession, one through Lord Shiva, one through the goddess Lakshmi, one through Lord Brahma, one through the four Kumaras. The same thing comes down through different channels. These are called the four Sampradayas or disciplic succession. So the same teaching, Krishna consciousness, coming through those four channels. So one has to take his mantra from one of these four Sampradayas. Then only is that mantra active. If we receive the mantra in that way, it will be effective. And if one does not receive his mantra through one of these Sampradaya channels, then it will not act, it will not give fruit. So of course, he's trying to very kindly convince John Lennon, Yoko Ono, the supreme among the hippies. Yoko Ono. So, if the mantra itself has so much power, it's a good question actually. Does it matter where you receive it? Where you take it? Good question. You got the mantra, it's so powerful. What does it matter? Prabhupada, yes it does matter. For instance, milk is nutritious, that is a fact, everyone knows. But if milk is touched by the lips of a serpent, it is no longer nutritious, it becomes poisonous. Better answer. Shot down. Not quite. She's still got some wind in her sails. Well, milk is material. Prabhupada, yes, it is material, but since you are trying to understand spiritual topics through your material senses, we have to give you material an example. Yoko Ono, well, no. I don't think you have to give me the material sense. I mean, the mantra is not material. It should be something spiritual. Therefore, I don't think anybody should be able to spoil it. I wonder if anyone can actually spoil something that isn't material. Another good challenge. Srila Prabhupada. But if you don't receive the mantra through the proper channel, it may not really be spiritual. Better answer. So, such an expert preacher. Yeah, I think that's the end. That's the end of that conversation. So that's the main thing. That's where Prabhupada gave some very very, very good answers to completely shut down some good questions, some good challenges, some common challenges like that. So, a little bit back to Madhvacharya himself. This also gives a good understanding of the devotional status. This quote, this is from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 4:28-30, is a very nice status, the devotional status of such personalities as these acharyas. King Madhvacharya was a great devotee, and after this is from the purport, and after he married the daughter of King Vijaya, he gave her one nice daughter whose eyes were black. Figuratively, this means that the daughter of King Madhvacharya was also bestowed with devotional service, for her eyes were always fixed on Krishna. A devotee has no vision in his life other than Krishna. So there were 7 sons. The 7 sons are the 7 processes of devotional service: hearing, chanting, remembering, offering, worship, offering prayers, rendering transcendent loving service, and serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Of the 9 types of devotional service, only 7 were immediately given. The balance, friendship and surrendering everything, were to be developed later. In other words, devotional service is divided into 2 categories, namely Vijaya and Raga. The process of becoming friends with the Lord and sacrificing everything for Him belongs to the category of Raga, the stage of developed devotional service. For the neophyte, the important processes of those are those of hearing and chanting, Shravan and Kirtanam, remembering Krishna, worshipping the deity in the temple, offering prayers, and always engaging in the service of the Lord and worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord. The word Vijaya indicates that these processes are very powerful. After a devotee engages in the processes of Shravan, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Parasevanam, Archana Bandhanam, Dasam, and is able to secure these processes, he can later become a devotee capable of rendering spontaneous devotional service, namely Sakyam and Atmanavedanam. So just a little note before I finish this purport, that Prabhupada also classifies the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam amongst Raga Marga. They're very prominent in devotees trying to develop Raga Marga. And deity worship is very prominent for devotees developing the Vijaya Marga. But on the very mature stages of Raga Marga, then these other 2 are also there, and therefore Sakyam and Atmanavedanam. Prabhupada continues, he says, generally the great acharyas who preach devotional service all over the world belong to the category of Sakyam Atmanavedanam. A neophyte devotee cannot actually become a preacher. A neophyte is advised to execute devotional service in these 7 other fields, Shravan and Kirtanam. If one can successfully execute the preliminary 7 items, he can in the future be situated on the platform of Sakyam Atmanavedanam. So to be a very powerful preacher, such as the Acharyas, such as Srila Prabhupada, this platform of Sakyam Atmanavedanam, very mature stages of Raga Marga, the full surrender, absolute surrender, and this intimate friendship with Krishna. So there's another, and then the last part of the purport, the specific mention. Some great acharyas like, all are very strong. The specific mention of Dravida Desh refers to the 5 Dravida Deshes in South India. All are very strong in rendering the preliminary devotional processes, Shravan, Kirtan, etc. Some great acharyas like Madhvacharya and Madhvacharya also came from Dravida Desh and became great preachers. They were all situated on the platform of Sakyam Atmanaveda. So, an interesting, we come in the disciplic succession of Madhvacharya. He was born in South India in Udupi, in a Shivali Brahmana dynasty, 1119 AD, although some, vary that date, somewhere between about 1238 and even 1317. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praised Madhvacharya's 2 things: the refutation of the Mayavad doctrine and the worship of the form of Krishna, knowing it to be eternal. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorified 2 main principles from each of these sampradayas to let us know what are the main things we should take from them. As we know, there are sub-branches, and there are also what was previously followed in the sampradayas has changed. So, whereas Prabhupada mentioned somewhere, some of these sampradayas which previously worshipped Krishna now worship Lord Ramchandra. So that's a big change. So previously, everyone in the sampradaya worshipped Krishna, and everyone in the sampradaya worshipped Rama. So there's some significant changes. So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is pointing out some very significant factors that really these are the main things you should be taking from that. So he's not necessarily praising everything, because there are some. Therefore, we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu more closely than we perhaps would align ourselves with the current Madhvacharya Sampradaya. I'll explain that. So, Sri Chaitanya praised Madhvacharya's refutation of the Mayavadi doctrine and the worship of the form of Krishna, knowing it to be eternal. One of the main facets of Madhvacharya's teachings, he studied the devotees under Vyasadeva personally, he went to see him. And his Vedanta Sutra commentary, so all of the, to be a bona fide sampradaya, you must also have a bona fide commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So each of these acharyas compiled a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. There was a challenge against our sampradaya coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They were saying we didn't have a commentary, and that is because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, accepted the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam as a natural commentary because it was written by Srila Vyasadeva as the commentary on the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. But because of the challenge, then it was Baladeva Vijaya, the disciple of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who wrote that commentary, and was very much appreciated even by the people who challenged the movement, and very much glorified. And Prabhupada, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, he actually he says to Srila Baladeva Vijaya, who presented so nicely the Govindabhasya commentary on Vedanta Sutra, that special mention. So you see how the great acharyas are always protecting the main pure teachings, of the Sampradaya. And of course, this really should be the mood of every devotee. It's just like, when you have a community, you have a temple, you have a zone, or you have, a whole movement. Every devotee should have that mood of, protecting Krishna, protecting his teachings, allowing, the main teachings never to be overshadowed. But, as Prabhupada says, as neophytes, speaking of myself, it's the great, powerful preachers who can do this. Not everyone can just set themselves up as a powerful preacher like that. It's not just a matter of studying the books. I'll study the books and this, that, and the other, and then once I've intellectually understood, I'll go out and be a power. You've got to come to the platform of the expert in the 7 processes of devotional service, and especially if you can come to the platform of Sakyamata and Vedanam, then one, very powerful, to preach Krishna consciousness. But Madhvacharya, he established a doctrine known as Sudha-Dvaita Vada. That's called pure dualism. So they're teaching the same thing, but they concentrate on certain aspects. So he devoted himself to combating Sankara's impersonalism. He more emphatically than Ramanuja, he taught the distinction between God and the jiva. See, in Ramanuja-Acharya, he's called, what is it? It is qualified oneness. So Ramanuja-Acharya is teaching that you say, you impersonalists, that everything is one. Okay, yes, of course, it's all coming from the one source, but it's a qualified oneness because there's variety. So he liked to emphasize the variety, oneness. Madhvacharya is really pointing out that you can't compare the statements in the scriptures of the jiva with the Ishvara. They're just giving descriptions of two different, one is unlimited and one is a treasure trove of miseries. They're just not on the same platform. So, he taught 3 distinct principles primarily, and that is the dependent jiva, the independent and transcendental supreme Lord, and the material energy. So on those things he concentrated, just as a summary. Now, another significant feature is that Madhvacharya, although he's on the platform of Sakyam and Vedanam, in the context of the time and personalities who he's preaching to, he emphasizes Varnashram quite strongly. As, if you follow Varnashram down, it will lead you to help you to go back to the spiritual world. So you practice devotional service, and it's very prominent with the aspects of the Varnashram, and that will lead you. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here differed with Madhvacharya's Sampradayas, who called themselves the Tattvavadis, because impersonalists, they call themselves the Mayavadis. Everything is Maya. Krishna is Maya, Gita is Maya, the devotees are Maya. It's all one. Anything else is Maya. It's all impersonal. So he called his Sampradaya Tattvavadis. No, it's all truth. Even the material energy is truth. It says that in the Gita. Krishna says in the 13th chapter. The material energy is, it is eternal. Therefore, it's truth. But the living entity is coming. They're, unlimited variety of living entities coming and going. But the material energy is eternal. It's one of the eternal energies of the Lord. Therefore, it's, it is coming from the truth. Therefore, it is truth. So, therefore he called the Tattvavadis. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said the ultimate activity for the devotees is not prominence in activities in Varnashram, but prominence in hearing and chanting. And the goal of life is not necessarily going back to Godhead, although everyone should at least aspire to that. The goal of life is actually to attain pure love of Godhead, whether you're in this material world or not. And therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, all the one who will cause is devotional service, birth after birth. He's not praying to go back to Godhead. He wants devotional service. Devotional service is synonymous with love, love of God. He wants love of God. And whether I have love of God in this world, or love of God in the spiritual world, the goal is love of God. And I'm not trying to, gain in any way, nor is my happiness of going back to Godhead or liberation in any way a consideration while I'm approaching you. I just want to offer loving service. You may offer going back to Godhead, you may not. It makes no difference. I'm not asking for anything except the opportunity to love. So this is where we differ from the Tattvavadis, but because of the, Madhvacharya had to preach that, at least that had to be established. You can't establish something higher until at least that is established. Actually, if Madhvacharya and these acharyas hadn't preached, we'd all be sitting here, chanting different mantras. There's one that Swami likes to do in his plays. It goes like this. Oh, everyone chanting there. We'll all do it together. Oh, wa, as, I. The bogey, is it the bogey yogi? Bhogananda. He gives him the mantra, oh what an ass I am, you're sitting there chanting and then you realise what he's saying. But we'd be chanting other mantras, we wouldn't be chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Madhvacharya had to defeat, Sangacharya first. He had to smash him and present the philosophy. And two, the Brahminical society, they had to at least accept that understanding. Narayan is the personality of Godhead. His original form is Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita should be accepted. He had to at least establish that. Later, other things would come through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These acharyas actually paved the foundation for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement to then take, when you take the, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pointed out, each one has established especially two very prominent aspects which are essential, and then when you take those and combine them all together, plus you just go, to the more, to the ultimate, you get the Sankirtan movement. So it combines all the aspects of the four Sampradayas, and then from there, from that foundation, he goes further. So that is a difference there. And here when it describes that he established the form of Krishna, as you know, in the Dupi there's the form of Krishna with the little in his left hand he has the bata, little bell Krishna. And I'm reading that. I'm going to just read that story. This is from this is from BTG, 1983. Some good articles there. We won't have time to read other pastimes, but at least I'll read this pastime of how Krishna came to Udupi. And it goes right back to Krishna Lila. So, yeah, this is from BTG. It looks like 1983. The holy town of Udupi lies on the Arabian Sea in the South Indian state of Karnataka. The town is famous as a place of pilgrimage because of the temple Sri Krishna Mat. This temple was founded by Srila Madhvacharya in AD 1238 to 1317. One of the greatest saints, philosophers and religious reformers of India. Udupi is said to have attained the status of Vaikuntha, the kingdom of God, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead came and stayed there in response to the desire of his pure devotee Srila Madhvacharya. So it became a Dham. I was just discussing last time I had engaged Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. I think there were 5 different, might have been Bhaktivedanta, there are 5 different ways that a Dham can manifest. So this is one. It becomes a Dham. Even before Madhva's time, Udupi was renowned as a holy place. People throughout South India frequently went there on pilgrimages because it was a centre of Vedic scholarship and the site of 2 ancient temples, Sri Ananteswara and Sri Chandramauleshwara. In the Sri Ananteswara temple, the more famous of the 2, Lord Vishnu and his personal expansion, Lord Anantasesha, is said to reside within the Shiva Linga. So, it's interesting, isn't it? So, Lord Vishnu and his personal expansion, Lord Anantasesha, is said to reside within the Shiva Linga, the deity form of Lord Shiva, who is the most powerful demigod and the greatest devotee of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Chandramauleshwara is a temple of Lord Shiva, so named because he carries the crescent moon Chandra on his head. Not much else is known about Udupi prior to Madhva's advent, except that the town is named after Lord Shiva, Udupi being derived from Udupa, another name of Lord Shiva, meaning he who carries the moon on his head. Srila Madhvacharya, in the years before he founded the Sri Krishna Mat, was affiliated with the Sri Ananteswara temple. Here he used to hold audiences spellbound with his learned discourses on the science of Krishna consciousness. Within the temple compound, he would regularly hold debates with scholars opposed to pure devotion to Lord Krishna as the ultimate end of Vedic knowledge. Madhva never lost a debate. After founding Sri Krishna Mat, Madhva made it the centre for all his activities. Tradition still has it, however, that pilgrims go first to Chandramauleshwara and offer their respects to Lord Shiva, then to Ananteswara to offer respects to Lord Vishnu, and finally go across the street to Sri Krishna to worship Sri Madhvacharya's original deity of Lord Balakrishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as a young child. The amazing story of how Balakrishna deity crossed the ocean from faraway Dwarka in northwest India to Udupi in the south is told in Vijaya, the biography of Srila Madhvacharya. Madhva wanted to have a temple of Lord Krishna in Udupi. The devotees could then worship and serve the Lord and ennoble their souls. Well, it so happened that in Dwarka, one of the main places of Krishna's pastimes on earth 5,000 years ago, a deity lay concealed within a large mass of Gopi Chandan clay. No one knew the deity was there, but because the lump of clay was exceedingly heavy, some sailors loaded it onto their merchant ship as a ballast. On the ship's southward journey, just off the coast of Udupi, a tempest blew the ship aground on a sandbank. On that very day, Srila Madhvacharya, absorbed in composing Dvadasa, his famous 12-part poem praising Lord Krishna, had gone to the beach to bathe, or, as some say, to receive the Lord. Upon seeing the ship caught fast on the sandbank and hearing the cries of the sailors in distress, Srila Madhvacharya waved his cloth in their direction. This calmed the stormy seas, and the ship floated free. Madhva, so that's interesting because there's the fire connection. When he waves the cloth, it has a lot more effect than when we do it. Madhva then guided the vessel to safety. Eager to show his appreciation, the captain offered Madhva whatever he wanted from the ship's cargo. Madhva chose a heavy lump of Gauri Chandan clay. Disciple attendants of Madhvacharya had just started back to Udupi with a large lump of clay when, but a short distance from the beach, the lump broke into two, revealing the handsome deity of Lord Balakrishna. But now, the combined effort of 30 of Madhva's disciples could not budge the deity. Only when Madhvacharya himself embraced and lifted the deity as if it were a child did the deity consent to be moved. Similarly, ISKCON, especially in its infant state, is like Krishna as a child. And therefore, it expands by the potency of great acharyas like Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, hundreds and hundreds of devotees cannot necessarily expand. It expands by Prabhupada. So, in the great transcendental ecstasy, Madhva carried the Lord the 4 miles back to Udupi. On the way, he completed the remaining 7 parts of Dāsa Stotra, reciting the verses out loud. Back in Udupi, Madhva bathed the Lord in the lake known as Madhva and enshrined him in the Sri Krishna Math. Srila Madhvacharya instituted rigorous standards for worshipping Sri Krishna, and whenever he was in Udupi, he would personally perform the 13 daily worship ceremonies for the Lord. How the deity of Bala, Krishna, had come to be buried in Dwarka is told in Pramaya Navamalikatika, a work from the 17th century by Raghuvari Tirtha, an Acharya in succession from Srila Madhvacharya. Once, during the time of Lord Krishna's manifest pastimes on earth, Mother Devaki lamented to the Lord over her misfortune at never having witnessed the Lord's childhood pastimes in Vrindavan. She entreated the Lord to make her happy and fortunate like Mother Yashoda by showing some of his childhood feats and frolics. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, just to give pleasure to his pure devotee, at once assumed the form of a small child and clambered all over Devaki's lap. Later, when Devaki went to churn butter, Krishna, acting like an ordinary mischievous child, broke the churn, ate the lumps of butter, and even smeared butter all over his transcendental body. He then snatched the churning rod and rope from Devaki's hands. After sporting like this for some time, the Lord again assumed his usual form of eternal youth. Mother Devaki was thrilled beyond measure to see the childhood pastimes of the Lord. Queen Rukmini Devi, Lord Krishna's consort, witnessed these pastimes and the Lord's mischievous behaviour and childhood features enthralled her. To preserve the memory, she had a deity made of child Krishna holding a churning rod and rope. Queen Rukmini began to worship this deity regularly. Later, after the Lord returned to the spiritual sky with his retinue, Arjuna deposited the deity in a place called Rukmini Vana. In the course of centuries, the deity became completely covered with clay and remained in that condition near Dwarka until merchant sailors brought it to Madhvacharya at Udupi. So that deity in Udupi is commissioned by Rukmini. She had that deity made. So, yes, so many nice pastimes. So I've just tried to skim through and a few drops of nectar here and there. But if anyone has any questions or comments,
Could you tell us about Vallabhacharya?
Vallabhacharya.
Yeah.
Yes, coming in the site succession of Madhvacharya, in the Sri Sampradaya. I think there was some disagreement again between himself and Vallabha, although,
See, they've got Nadwara temple near Udaipur, where your Guru Maharaj went.
Yeah. Yeah, so, there's interesting things where, because in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it mentions there was some disagreement in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples were preaching to some of the members of the Bhaktivedanta Sampradaya, and some of them got really upset. One of them wrote a letter to Prabhupada and was, thought, she was criticising his disciples.
Very opulent deity they have got.
Yeah, but Prabhupada, he agreed that the truth should be spoken palatably, but his ultimate conclusion was the truth has to be spoken. So he didn't condemn his disciples. So it's an interesting letter because we have to be very palatable. We meet people even from the bona fide Sampradayas, not to speak of those who are not in Sampradaya, and we have to speak very palatably, to be very careful. But also, at some stage, some of the truth has to be spoken where there's some disagreements with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the ultimate authority. So, that's preaching work, and it has to be done very carefully. Yeah.
I reference for library demand in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam.
Yeah.
4. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 4.
Well, sorry, you're asking for my reference for?
When you're discussing Vijaya Margamana.
Oh, yeah. That was, at 4:28:30 in the Bible. Alright, so we'll just leave it there because it's 9 o'clock.